I knew that I was going to get emotional, and I mentally prepared for weeks to make this video, this life update video for you, not thinking that I would get emotional. All right, hey there friends, it's been a long time. I thought that it would be appropriate to jump back into making videos with a little bit of an update. If you are new to my channel, by the way, I always say this at the beginning of the videos, but I would love it if you would subscribe, join this community of feminine women who also like to talk about things that are a little bit controversial, kind of like commentary on issues surrounding women today. This video kind of truly is for those of you who have been here since 2019 when I started making videos. You know, I was debating perhaps just sliding all of my personal stuff under the rug and going straight back into just making femininity type of content, but I love making vlogs, for example, and life update videos because it truly is the occasion where I get to connect with all of you and feel as though we are friends sitting down having a coffee. I'm not having a coffee right now, I am having a water because I am pregnant and quite dehydrated often. Although I still do enjoy my coffee this pregnancy versus last pregnancy, I totally gave up coffee, but not this time. I have a toddler now, he is 12 months old, and I need a little bit of fuel in the day. Speaking of my toddler, he's right there next to me in his high chair, coughing a little bit because he just developed a cold and he's having a snack. So I'm going to try not to drag this video along too much. First things first, I think I just mentioned this, pregnancy brain, but I'm pregnant. And it feels weird saying that it was a surprise pregnancy because as many of you who follow me on Instagram know, I wanted another baby and had baby fever since like 3 months postpartum, but my doctor told me to wait until 6 months. However, I didn't think that it would happen when it did and as fast as it did, because as many of you know, it took about like just under or around 2 years to get pregnant with our son that we have now. And I also went through a miscarriage, which I vlogged about as well. If you have gone through that, I will link that video above as well as down below, just because I found when I was going through that experience, it helped watching other women vlog and talk about going through the same thing. But anyway, I think it's kind of an indication that it was a surprise, since I talked about in this post on Instagram how I wanted to make a video talking about feminine health and touching upon weight loss, because I did lose all my baby weight by 9 months postpartum, which is coincidentally when I got pregnant again. And I'm the type of person, I've mentioned this before as well, that when I'm pregnant I kind of blow up and I gain much more than the recommended amount of weight, which also makes me a little bit self-conscious to be on camera because my face does get bigger. But without going into detail, I'm going to talk about it. I'm still going to make that video in the next couple weeks and talk about it more, but the amount of weight that I gained was definitely healthy for my body. I ate intuitively because I was able to become more in touch with my femininity through losing weight without going extremely hardcore, which I think is a big indication of how important it is to listen to our bodies in the different types of stages that we go through as women. Because when we are in good health, we can put on those pounds necessary to grow a baby adequate for what our body was designed to, and then go back into a feminine exercise and eating routine that causes for the weight to come off without subscribing to what is pushed on women nowadays, such as those high intensity workouts, etc., etc. So back to the baby. We are having a girl. I did get an early test done to find out that we were having a girl. And honestly, I'm quite surprised, even though you would think that becoming a girl mom is something that would be very natural to me because I do talk about all this girly stuff on my channel. I am a little bit afraid, and I think that just comes with being a woman in today's culture. And so if you have any tips on raising emotionally healthy girls and women, if you are an older mom, I would love to hear it in the comments down below. And I never really had a huge preference on any type of gender. I've always just prayed for a healthy baby, and I feel extremely blessed that it just came so easily this time to get pregnant. But I am interested to see how the journey will differ with a girl. And I also want to say though, so far this pregnancy has been very difficult. The first trimester, I was so sick, and that was not something that I had with my son at all. I also find that I look a little bit different, like my skin is not very good. All those classic old wives' tales that you would hear about being pregnant with a girl. I am going through that, definitely. And of course, I didn't expect to be pregnant so soon, so perhaps I didn't give my body the adequate amount of time to rest in between, because they do recommend about 18 months. But maybe that was a little bit of selfishness on my part. I always wanted to have kids close together. My brother and I are the exact difference that my son will be with our daughter, like down to the month, like November and I guess to give you a preview, April, like the exact birthday difference. It's absolutely wild. So I'm excited to see how their relationship grows, because I've always been close to my brother. And so I hope that they have the same type of thing. Okay, I think that I've talked enough about that. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the difference in background. I'm sorry if my fridge has a couple of marks. Today's actually going to be a cleaning day in the afternoon. But if you've also been around here since 2019, you aren't surprised that I'm going to tell you that we moved again. Where we are staying now is definitely not somewhere where we will be long term, but we are going to be here for several months, perhaps a little bit longer. We will see. And I'm not sure about how much I'm going to share of this new location, although it would be so interesting to vlog or to do something like make TikToks about my day, because to give you a little bit of an idea, I am living a different lifestyle as a stay-at-home mom here than where I was living before in suburbia. And I don't know about you, but I love watching people online that live, similar values but totally different lifestyles. For example, homemakers that live in the middle of nowhere, that are homesteading, that are living off the grid. I love that kind of content, even though I will probably never do that. To like the super posh mom who lives in New York, those kinds of things, but still is very involved with her kids. I just love seeing the contrast and how we all still have similar values, but we live different lifestyles. So my point about that is I'm not sure how I'm going to go about sharing my life, and especially because, like I talked about temporarily being here, sort of, it's not really super decorated. So I know I'm going to get comments about how it's extremely minimalist and I need to decorate it more and femininity in that self-expression type of way. But I'm in a little bit of a different season of life, so everything that I bring into my space, I know I'm going to have to move it again. With 2 kids, that's a little bit stressful, so I don't know about putting the vase with the flowers on the table every single week. I don't know about that right now. I'm gonna have to just finding different feminine outlets for creativity. And also, I will say that you've seen me go like in different size houses, pretty big houses before, and I am so happy to be in a smaller space. I think that being in a smaller space with a small child, and I didn't think it would be like this, is just so much better, because I can clean an entire bathroom while, for example, he's having a snack or I'm putting on a little show for like 10 minutes. Versus the previous house, I found it really hard to keep up with everything with my son, and especially because of my dogs. And I never thought that I would change my mind that way, but I am just loving so much a smaller space. It's going to be very difficult to adjust to a bigger space depending on exactly where our plans are going to be. Which brings me to what I was going to talk about, not knowing how much I'm going to share. In my previous spaces where I lived, I had somebody dox where I lived, and it really spooked me because I'm such a small channel. I never thought that I would deal with that kind of like personal intrusion. And honestly, for all those of you who comment, I know 98% of you are genuine, and I would just have you over and be a part of my life in real life. But I feel like I have to be a little bit careful about perhaps those 2% or maybe even less, that 0.5% of people who don't have the best intentions. So long story short, follow me on all my social media handles, because I don't know how I'm going to share when it comes to more of my daily life. Regardless, you can catch me still making femininity, homemaking, commentary type of videos. They will always be here. And lastly, I knew that I was going to get emotional, and I mentally prepared for weeks to make this video, this life update video for you, not thinking that I would get emotional, but here we are. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that my mother passed away in September. She had been battling stage 4 cancer for several years, but it ended up being pretty stable. Long story short, it was an unexpected complication that didn't directly have to do with her cancer, that caused her to very suddenly get an infection, and within a matter of 2 to 3 days, she sadly passed away. I was there when that happened, and that is something that will always change you as a person. Seeing somebody else die, but also, you know, seeing somebody born, those are just the things that deeply affect you. Because I was going through so much in September, I never really had the chance to process it, and I just felt like it hit me like a ton of bricks, especially when I started to feel a little bit better physically during pregnancy these past couple weeks. And yeah, it was, I don't even know now what to say when I kind of mentally thought about what I was going to say. But long story short, losing a parent, especially one that you were so close to, you all know how much I talked about my mother and how she was actually quite an integral part of this channel. She would give me ideas. She also loved like keeping up with different femininity type of content, and she supported other channels as well. She was like a big cheerleader in what I was doing, and I would talk to her multiple times a day. She was so close to my son. He was like the light of her life, even down to the last day that she was alive in the hospital. We could barely talk to her, she could barely speak, but then I brought my son into the room and she just lit up, and she would always put all of her strength into being strong so that she could play with him, type of thing. Yeah, it's been very difficult, and I don't think I'll ever stop talking about her because of how much of an influence she has had in my life and in my femininity. But definitely going through the stages of grief, a lot of anger, a lot of mourning of my family because we were always so close. There's so much that I could say, but I think that I'm going to cut it at that and tend to my son because he just finished his little snack and his little cracker, and we will see what we will do with him for the rest of the day since he's got a little cold, right? Okay friends, I am going to see you in the next video. It's not going to be 4 months from now, I promise. Hopefully it will only be 4 days or a week or 2 weeks max. Bye-bye.